America loves litigation. I mean, everybody's a lawyer. You could throw a hammer out the window and it would probably land on a lawyer or somebody who's got another job, but they're also a lawyer. I've never known anything like it. It's not like this in Europe. You know, we don't sue anybody and everybody just because. There's almost a sense of responsibility that I was brought up with. And in the case of Donald Trump taking documents that didn't belong to him, classified documents, top secret documents, national security secrets, to his personal place of residence after he's lost the election, is what's happened. That is what has happened. That's where it should end. It shouldn't even be in the courts. He's so banged to rights. It's so done. This is what happened. You can't wriggle out of it. Anybody who is of sound mind sees it, sees the evidence. The fact that there's papers missing now suggests that he may have shared those papers, given them away, used them as compromat with foreign adversaries. Who only knows? But the point is that the crime has been committed and it's been done in plain sight. A little bit like the coup that was in plain sight. And still people are like, oh, I'm not sure there was a coup. There was a coup! So Fox News gets William Barr on now, you know, like some suggesting that he is in some way the authority on these things. I mean, William Barr arguably is the most corrupt Attorney General America ever had.
Let me explain something, because there's a lot of confusion over executive privilege. Yeah. Let's say a document has the DOD's secretary recommendation on strikes against a hostile nation in retaliation for something. We should bomb X. That is potentially privileged if someone outside the executive branch tried to compel its production, like Congress or a grand jury. But that's not where we are. Number one, that document clearly is not the president's. It clearly goes to the archives. Number two, the judges just acknowledged that it can go to the intelligence community to assess the damage. The reason that's not a problem under privilege is because it's not going outside the executive branch. The question presented here is one she doesn't even address, but it's the only issue really in dispute, which is, can a former president say that this document, an executive privilege, precludes executive branch agents who are looking into whether a crime was committed from reviewing those documents? It's too early to say that they're going to try to put those documents before a grand jury. There's no contemplation right now or proposal to put it outside the executive branch. So her decision is premature. And the dispute isn't over whether this document is potentially executive privilege and this one isn't. That's not the dispute. The dispute is whether the president, even if it is executive privilege, can the president bar DOJ from reviewing the documents? And the answer to that, I think, is clearly no.
So you're saying that only comes into play if you're going to put those documents before a grand jury.
Right.
So that in this venue, this period of this investigation, within the executive branch, there's no ability for the president to say, I brought these with me, they're my papers, I have every right to keep them at the House if I want to keep them at the House, yeah. And you can't look at them, Department of Justice.
Totally wrong. Totally wrong.
You know, the Mueller report, which Republicans claim exonerated Donald Trump, did not. He obstructed justice. But William Barr decided to, off the back of a memo, which was, unsealed a couple of weeks ago, you can read about it if you'd like to, got up on a podium the morning of the Mueller report being released and gave his own version of it that was completely factually inaccurate. He basically said Trump is exonerated, and he wasn't. He was cited as obstructing justice. It was Mueller just saying that he couldn't indict him because he's a sitting president. I mean, let's be clear about the landscape here in America at the moment. You have a criminal former president who has committed more crimes in office and now out of office than any president in history. I mean, this whole thing makes Watergate look like a child's birthday party. I really feel like we need to put our heads back on our shoulders because people are losing their minds over this. I mean, the fact that a special master has now been recommended by this far-right judge, this Trump-appointed judge. He finds a judge, right? He actually put this judge in after he'd lost the election. This judge is a member of the Federalist Society since 2005. She's a far-right operative. She's a Trump judge. Of course she's sided with Trump. Oh, get a special master. The FBI and the DOJ have already looked at all of the documents. They've already done their analysis. You're 3 weeks too late, mate. It's just beggars belief that any of this is happening, and yet the media reports on it like it's a real thing. They should be laughing it out of court. All of this should be laughed out of court. In fact, it should be laughed so much at that it doesn't even make it to court in the first place. But weirdly, here in the US, we have this kind of national conversation that takes Donald Trump seriously. And this has enabled him and empowered him. And this is why his cult follow him, because he's been legitimized. There is nothing legitimate about this guy. You know, he is an empty vessel. He's a Russian mark. He's a corrupt, terrible businessman. And yet he is branded the Messiah by those who are in the cult and choose to follow him. We have to think very seriously about what it is that we choose to spend our day doing when we're scrolling through the feeds and we are indulging Donald Trump with all of this insanity. It's enough. I'm Anthony Davis. You can hear me every day on the 5 Minute News podcast and on Sundays on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.